Okay, once more, hello. This time with audio. Okay. Let's try it again. So, we are starting off with finding ourselves a model first. For that, just go down below in the description, or like I will just post it in the comments. I don't know, I switched the model like 3 times already now, but we will go with this fantasy Sakura leaves tree right now. So yeah. One thing to mention is that when going for free models, or like in general with any kind of model, you want to look at the vertex count. This is pretty important because there's only, or like there's a limit to the renderware engine as to how many vertices can exist on any given model, and that can't be above 65,000 something. So always keep in mind to not really cross that limit. However, you can cross it a little bit because there are some ways to reduce the vertex count in total, but it will almost certainly kill some of the topology of the model itself, and it will not look quite right as how you want it to look. So yeah, whatever, just keep in mind to not go with a model that has too many vertices. Sadly, most modern models, of course, cross that limit. But yeah, there's also a lot of models that are pretty low poly, still look very good. This one, for example, here. Probably a lot of other models that also have a low poly count. Okay, so we will start off with this model. Make sure to download it. We want to use the GLB or the GLTF format. I'd always opt for the GLB format. Make sure to go for the low texture size. We don't need any big textures for GTA SA. Doesn't matter. So just go for 1K or even lower. Like later on we can also compress the images a little bit more to save on resources. Alright, I've already downloaded this model, so I won't re-download it again. Yeah, then we can switch over to Blender. Once we are here, we can actually import it. Just go to import or file, import, and then to GLB. And then we want to select our fantasy Sakura tree. Right now, you will see this one is pretty damn small. So what we want to do is first scale it up a little bit. I will just do it like this right now, but as a reference you can always import any kind of GTA SA model. So we'll do this as well. Let's import some Hippolyte. This one right here, maybe. Okay, never mind. I don't want to import that. Let's go for another tree. Maybe the 7. I mean, yeah, that looks a little bit better. So we can take that one as reference. So we will make it a little bit bigger. Maybe something like this. Okay, we can get rid of the Hippolyte tree now. Don't need that in our scene. And what we want to do is next is hit A to select everything in our scene. And then press Ctrl J. Never mind, we want to select any mesh first. Then hit A and press Ctrl J to join all meshes. Next, we want to deselect it from the entire parent hierarchy. You will see here on the right. This is just unnecessary. And yeah, so we just hit Alt P and clear and keep transformation. So we've separated everything. We can get rid of the other stuff and only have our model right here. Right. The next step is the vertex coloring already. So, or what we actually also can do is, before we go over to the vertex coloring, is hit Tab to switch into the edit mode. and make sure that everything is selected, but this should be normal when you switch over. Then hit F3 and search for merge by distance. And right now you will see that there hasn't been a big change, but this one cleans every unnecessary vertex point up. So it depends on how close they are together, of course. We can always change this value, but at some point it will just kill our topology of the model itself and will not look good anymore. For this one right here, we could actually go for 0.1 for the merge distance, but I will not do that. So I will go back and hit merge by distance again, and then, okay, no mind, I will just go back to the default value of 0.0001 meter. But this is a pretty good tip to reduce the vertex count as well. Most models have the problem that there's like way too many vertices that are necessary, and that way you can almost certainly halve them for most models. But yeah. Okay, we can then hit tab again, go back to the object mode. And now we will go over to the vertex painting that will later on define the lighting in MTA. So select the vertex painting, make sure we are in the normal viewport shading mode, and then we want to create the day coloring. Select white as color. You can either select vertex or face corner to apply the vertex coloring. This is like a trial and error process where you have to figure it out, like, okay, what fits best. I will just keep it as is right now. So we will hit add, then go over to paint and select dirty vertex colors. This will automatically apply depending on the vertex positions of the model, how dark each area is. So we can also change this right here. Maybe select only dirt only and normalize. This looks a little bit better, I think. So we go for something like this. I think it's a little bit too bright, but maybe not. So I will leave it like it is right now. And then we also want to add the night coloring. Go hit dirty vertex colors again. This time I will remove the dirt only, and I will also add a brightness and contrast modifier on top of it. I will reduce the contrast a little bit, so the model does not get too dark, but also reduce the brightness. Maybe something like a little darker. Let's just get rid of the contrast. Maybe something like this. So yeah. And now we're done with that. We can just go back to object mode, select our object. Also make sure to set the origin to geometry. Okay, then origin to 3D cursor, and then geometry to origin. Okay. So after that, we also want to apply the all transforms modifier. So actually anything that we changed inside here or on the model itself gets applied, like the scale, rotation, location, etc. If we wouldn't have done that, then the old position where it was placed in the beginning would have been kept. So this is also an important step to almost always apply the all transforms modifier. Once we have done with that, we can go over to the right side, go to the object properties. It should be selected by default, and scroll down to the Dragon FF export object section. Once there, we want to make sure to disable the export normals. And also always for all custom models, keep that in mind, for all custom models, you want to disable that lighting modifier. But yeah, there are some models in GTA itself, if you import them, you don't want to change any settings, but we will go on that later. For now, just always for any custom model you create, keep in mind to disable export normals and also disable the lighting modifier. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it right now. And hello, Rae. What up, my man? Now we want to export the dragon, like the DFF. I've already set up a location. Dictionary, I already want to say. Yeah, I've already set up a location. In here, you only want to ensure that you select the only selected checkbox, and for version, we always want to go with GTA SA, of course. Then hit export, or like the Dragon DFF button, whatever. And now we go scroll down again. And this time we want to export the collision. So we change the type from object to collision object. Go over to file, export, Dragon FF, and then Dragon FF collision. Also make sure to again select only selected and GTA SA. Alright, you will not see anything, it will just be done in almost an instant anytime you export the collision. Alright, once we're done with that, we can actually switch over to the shading tab. Oh, I might have forgotten something. Yeah, so one thing, before we actually export the model itself, we want to ensure that we go to the shading tab first, because right now you can see there's a lot of modifiers applied from Blender to the principal BSDF material. We want to make sure that everything of that material is actually deleted, because we will run into issues later if we don't do that. And now we need to only add an image texture to the color. Yeah, that's a step I almost forgot. And yeah, but this is pretty important. Always make sure that the principal BSDF only has an image texture to the base color connected. So I will select the image right here. It doesn't matter how it looks like right now inside Blender. Don't worry about that. It really doesn't matter. You can also put the alpha down here. It will automatically do that once we export, but we'll just make sure that it's connected as well. Yeah. Now I will go to the footage setting as well. You can see here there's also a lot of nodes that we don't need for MTA or GTA SA in general. And then the whole process over again. Select the image that we want to have and also apply it to the alpha. I will just make sure that it's the correct image. I think image 4 is the right one we want. Yeah. Okay, next we go into the particles as well. And do the same here. Now for the particles, probably just have that bluish color. Okay. Now that is done, make sure to apply the all transforms modifier just in case. You never know. If you don't have the Dragon FF export object and the type object selected, make sure to select the object again, and then we want to export it again. hit export. Yeah. Collision file is fine, but I forgot about the part in the shading tab. Sorry about that. But yeah, alright. We need to actually switch back to the shading part because we also want to export the images right now. Because we downloaded GLB format, everything is included in that format, and so we have to export them from Blender as well. To do that, you simply hit these three horizontal lines right here, go to Image, and then press Save As. Or you can also use the shortcut Shift Alt plus S, and then export it any way you want, or just create a new folder right here. Call it FBM, from Blender to MTA, and then save the image. Do the process for all images that are directly connected to all your slots or to the UV maps. Yeah. So save the image again, and we also need image 0. Something I want to also mention is that you have to ensure that the name that is defined inside Blender or on the material has to be the exact same for the texture. So if we now switch over to Magic.txt and we'll create a new file inside here, just name it whatever, or we'll just name it tree. And I will now add the textures. I'll go over here, image 0, or let's start with image 7. So we want to make sure that the texture name is exactly the same like it is for the material name inside Blender. Or if I'd write something else in here, like particle, you'd have to rename that texture to particle, or the texture name to particle, in order for it to detect where to apply that texture. But we had image 7, so we will keep image 7. And then we also something we want to do is to always compress the images. For like solid color images or without a transparent background, you always want to go for DXC1 or like DXC2, but in general I would just say go for DXC1 for anything that is non-transparent. Then hit add, and we will do the process all over again for the other image as well. Hit add again. And now we come to this transparent one. So for this, we want to make sure that we always go DXT3 or higher. Any transparent image you import into the game has to be either DXT3 or higher. If we don't select that, we will have a black background in between later on the texture applied. So always make sure that you select DXT3 or higher. But I'd always recommend the DXT5 compression mode. Oh yeah. And now we can simply save the TXT to our location. Now I will have to just go inside here. Right. Oh, we are basically done. All we have to do now is set up the meter XML and the script file. For that I will switch over to Visual Studio, create a new file, meter.xml, create my meter, close the meter, right here, tab, right script, source, just client.lua, or what we can also name it is like models.lua, and then the type is client type, of course. For the files, we now have to import every file right here, the collision, the DFF, the model, and the texture, or the TXT format. So simply, oh, go ahead and write that in. We don't need to define the type. The order really doesn't matter. I just go for the load order that is needed later on if you want to load the models in-game, because there's a certain order you have to keep in mind. But for the XML, it doesn't matter in what order you put them in. Just make sure they are in there, otherwise the game doesn't know where the file is. Okay, we also want to create a models.lua. Alright, for that, we want to see this wiki page right here. The engine replaced the model wiki page. It was posted into the chat right now. And you can find an example right here, right at the bottom. Just go in there, hit Control A, or not Control A, maybe not. Just select everything, copy it over, and put it into your site, your models.lua. Okay. You can read up on the whole article if you want. Oh, there's like the loading order mentioned as well again. First comes the collision, then the TXT, and last the DFF, like the model itself. That's something you always have to keep in mind, the order, but we're just going to use the template, so the order will always be the same anyway. Okay, now we're in here. You can simply delete all the other tables that are in here. We only need one table right now. These square brackets always define a table. So make sure that if you create a new table, you create both brackets. And if you want to create more than one more table, like, you always have to separate them by a comma. But yeah, just something I wanted to make you aware of. Okay, in here you need to define the locations of our call file, the txt file, and the dff file. You can do that, just go in here, call.tree, txt.tree, and then the dff/tree.dff. And then on what model we want the tree to be replaced on, or like which be. We will just leave it as a bin right now, this the default bin, just for simple sake. And also hit the alpha transparency to true, because our models, or like our leaves on the tree itself, are transparent. And then just press Ctrl S to save. And that's already it for the script. Then we can over refresh it, see that nothing has failed. And that's the wrong server actually, so go to start up the server. Right, one more thing before we switch over to MTA though. Something you always want to do is to optimize your collision files. In order to do that, I've posted like the call editor, or the collision file editor too, into the description below. Open it, and then open your collision file. So that is this one right here. Open it, and then you can see our collision. Just go in here and then press optimize. That's already it. That's everything you want to do. And then just Ctrl S to save it. Just make sure to save it some more, just in case. You can close it. Yeah. Now we can switch over to MTA. Let's hope that our game does not crash. Okay. Once we are in here, we'll just start the editor. This may take a while. Okay. And now hit refresh. Okay. Obviously it's already loaded, but if your server is already running, just hit refresh again to load the script, and then we want to start it. Okay, that's been started, and now you can see our model right here. I might not look the best right now. That's because of the lighting we've done inside Blender. Also make sure to enable double side. So yeah, also these dots are kinda shitty, so we might want to remove them. I will leave it as they are right now, but if we actually go to the dark lighting, you can see it looks pretty good, I'd say, or like I'm at least pleased with it. Might still not be the best lighting you can achieve, but it looks pretty fine to me. So yeah, that's basically the simplest step to import the model. You can always refine these steps, of course. That's also something we will do right now. So back in here, you can select the model again to adjust the lighting for the day lighting. Just go back to the Vertex paint and then select the day modifier. Go in here. I will just add brightness and contrast modifier. And okay. So sometimes when you apply the brightness and contrast modifier again, it will switch over to the night vertex painting. So we want to go into data on the right side, then go to attributes and just make sure that we actually select the day lighting in here. Go again. Okay, sometimes like I'm not really sure why it always wants to go back to the night modifier. Okay, whatever. Okay, normally you could actually just adjust it again. Yeah, right now it's not really letting me do it. No idea why. Please, can you just... No. So this is something pretty annoying, that it always switches over to the night lighting. Yes, you could just simply edit the day lighting again, so it also looks kind of fine when it's day, but you can also just paint over it, for example, or just do it. Show you real quick, whatever. We'll just leave it as is right now, and then hit all transforms again, export it once more, then go back in the game. And now if we restart the whole model, you can see like I've overdone it way too much because I just drew over it, you know? Like right now this is completely black. That's something we don't want. But yeah. You can always just go back now, but just reverse it again as well. Okay. Export it again. Reload. Now it's back where we started. Yeah, but you can just adjust the lighting until you think it's fine. And That's pretty much it. Something I want to show you is some advanced lighting right now. So what we can do to make better lighting is just use the scene lighting. For that we want to apply like any light source right now. And we also want to change the renderer inside Blender itself. Go from Eve to cycles. Okay, I have to lower the max samples a little bit for the viewport. You might have to do that as well if you encounter any lags. But yeah, right now you can see that the scene lighting is applied to the object. If you select the viewport shading on top of here. But this is an important step to do. And then in the render settings, what you also want to do is go down here to bake. Now what we can do is we can bake the lighting or like the vertex paint we get to the active color attribute we have selected. So we can select our model. Make sure we are selecting the day lighting or like the night lighting, whatever you want to bake the scene lighting into. Then go back to the renderer, or like let's first maybe adjust the sun a little bit. We'll just go for like pretty high strength on the sun itself. Maybe make it more like an orangey tone. I think like the yeah, it's pretty laggy right now, yeah. So I hope you can still hear me normally talking. You can also like maybe change it to GPU compute. If that changes anything. But I feel like it's still a bit laggy. I hope you can still hear me fine. If though, then just make sure to follow along as well as you can. But yeah, so I've now changed the strength of the sun, and now we can just hit the bake key. Yeah, make sure we have the active color attribute selected, and then just bake it into the color attribute itself. Now if we go over here and switch to vertex paint and also switch the viewport shading again, you can see that has been pretty much baked into it. So this is of course not completely right, you know, but I hope it kind of gives you a sense on how to implement viewport lighting onto your model, or like the default Blender lighting onto your model. If we now export that, you can also see it in game. Just again, Control A, or select the model, Control A, or transforms, and export our model. And then go back into MTA, restart our model, and see that nothing has changed. Okay, question mark. Let's export the model again. Okay, go back and restart. Okay, for some reason, what is happening? Ah. Okay, for some reason it didn't apply to the correct color attribute, but right now, because some of the stuff is actually completely black, it doesn't appear anymore in-game. So yeah, this of course doesn't look good at all. So we will go back into Blender and adjust the sun a little bit. It will just go to the normal strength. Maybe also adjust the position. Shouldn't matter, whatever. The angle to 90 degrees or something like that. And then switch over again. This already looks a lot better than before. Just bake it. I have accidentally also baked into the night scene lighting I see right now. Yeah. Okay. Back here. Right. So, yeah. I think we should not use the sun right now. Maybe let's just go for another. Maybe the spotlight will work a little bit better. So let's actually reset size. Okay. For some reason, why does it not want to apply? Okay, it does apply. Okay, never mind. So maybe this might work a little better. Let's see. Go back to renderer, then just hit bake. No. Okay, that isn't really like anything better. But yeah, this can work pretty well, I'd say. At least I've tried it on some objects and it actually worked pretty well. Right now, it doesn't really show its full potential, but I hope you get the idea. So yeah, like I just wanted to show you that you can actually implement the viewport lighting onto your model itself. So just make sure if you want to do that to select the Cycles rendering engine and then select the color attribute you want to bake into. And you can also always play around with the modifiers, of course. So yeah, this might actually be something I've missed. Maybe it, yeah. See, like right now, disable the image modifier and interesting. Okay, so that's also something you can just play around with. Maybe it always gives different results depending on it. So whatever. I think you get the idea. Okay. What else can I show you? I can show you like what you can do with custom, like with the normal GTA SA models. So what I do while mapping, for example, is I will just go around the world and see if maybe some object fits. You know, right here, these two bridges, for example, these two pedestrian bridges, or these three, and you want to use them, but you only want those bridges. Okay, so we have to remove everything else. This is pretty simple process. Just select or just copy the name of the object itself. And then if you've already exported the whole DFF archive from the gta.image file, you can simply, wait a second, let's first clean up the scene right here. You can simply press import, DFF, and then you want to copy the object in here, select our object, put it in here, switch the mode to the edit mode, and then delete everything we don't want to have. Like, pretty straightforward. So everything we don't want to have, just delete. Okay, these two vertices as well, and then those faces here in between. Oops. I want to delete the faces only. Okay, and now we are only left with those bridges. Now I want to check something real quick in game, because you might want to remove that as well. Yep. So we want to remove these two faces as well. It wants me to say. Okay. And these two as well. Okay. Also two faces we wanna delete. And that doesn't matter that much. Okay. Now we are only left with the bridge. And then we can just switch over to object mode. Control A and hit all transforms. Go over to our object properties. And now you don't want to modify anything. Like, don't modify anything for the export object options. Just leave them as they are. If you've imported any object, it will always apply the correct settings right here. Just leave them as they are and go to File, Export, and hit Dragon FF, DFF Export. Name them whatever you want, and then export them. So because we've only changed the model, you will only have to replace the model. Now, this is pretty simple. Let's create a new table and then only define the DFF file. So we named it bridges.dff. And now we also need the model ID. I think it was like 6408. And this time we want to just turn everything else off. Save it. Also the meta entry, of course. Yeah. Now we can go back into the game. Actually check the model ID. Of course it was not the right one. It's 6064. Okay, and now we can just hit restart, and you can see that we're only left with the bridges. So, but you will see that for some reason the sides are not displayed correctly or anything. And most of the time double side fixes that issue, but you might not always want to enable double side. So in order to fix these faces, like this is like an error where the normals are not facing outside, but they are facing inside the model. That's why you can see them from one side, but you can't really see them from the other side. So every time you see something like this, you know that your normals are not facing in the right direction. This can happen due to the import of the Dragon FF thingy. And in order to fix that, you would just go back into Blender, select the model again, and just press Shift plus N. You do that. Oh, wait, we need to actually switch the mode, sorry. So you want to go into the edit mode and then hit Shift plus N. This will recalculate all the normals facing to the outside. If you want to face them, if you want to have the normals face to the inside, you select the inside. But we just want to fix the normals, and that's how you do it. I just press Shift plus N and you're done. And then switch back to the object mode, hit Control A, apply all transforms, export the model again, drag and F, save it, go back into the game, restart, and now you can see that nothing shows up anymore. So nice. That's what we would call in German, like, or in Germany, the Vorführ effect. Right now you can see that like they display right from the one side, but now they're missing completely on the other side. That can happen, like, just sometimes play around with it. We'll see what happens right now if we actually select the inside. It's probably just going to be the reverse of the current state. So let's see. Yeah, okay. Yep, so whatever. You might have to select some of these sides independently, because I think, no, okay, so whatever. Just make sure the normals are always facing to the outside. It's fine. Oh, it's fine how it was right now. I mean, if you look at the model, it's still fine if we enable double side. Just can happen that for some models you might have some completely wrong faces, so you have to actually fix your normals completely. But yeah. I had an example with one of my custom shades I made actually. Yeah, whatever. It's still better to always fix the normals, so if you see any weird hiccups with your models or faces facing the wrong direction, just make sure to recalculate your normals inside the Blender. Yeah. Okay. So that is like pretty much it. I don't know. Can I show you something else? Something you want to know? You can. I think that's pretty much everything covered. Can maybe show you real quick how to export all of the GTASA models. So for that you will need the EMG editor. So, see if I can find it real quick. This should be the one, I think. Let's see. Nope. Ah, yeah, this is the one. Okay, so we'll need this IMG editor to open the GTA3.img inside the GTASA folder. Right. I've already got it down here. Don't care about the error message, it doesn't matter. So just open the EMG tool 2.0, then open your GTA.3 EMG, and then hit open. Once you've done that, you can select all the files in here or go to extract, like, oh. Select all, go to edit, select all, and then we have to wait a little bit until it selects everything. Okay, it has 16,000 files selected. And now we could actually go over here. Let me check real quick that I have if I have enough. It should be fine. I'll just do it as an example right now. So generally what you would want to do first is extract everything to one directory and then sort the files afterwards. So right now what I will do is I will export everything onto my drive inside the GTA SA assets folder, hit OK. So take a little while or like a minute, then we just wait until everything is extracted. Okay, now that everything is extracted, what you want to do is change the search type, so we can have every file in order. Now we want to select every .dff file, just scroll down. These are like 12,000 objects, so just scroll down until you don't see them anymore, the file endings. Select every file, you see like it's almost 30,000 models. Hit Ctrl X. Go into your DFF folder and Ctrl V. Alright, just reload the folder real quick, and you can see we've got every DFF file inside our folder, into our DFF folder. And now we could simply import all of these into Blender and modify them like I did with the bridges right here, and so on. But we also want to put all TXT files into one folder. So right now I've already done that, of course, but we just do the same process. I actually do that right now. I'll just go over it. FBM call, select every collision file. So for the collision file you won't have that many because they are saved in clusters. And to extract these clusters we have to do an extra step that I will go over later on. For now just put them into the collision file folder you set up. The .dat files are not really needed, so you can either delete them or also store them in a .dat folder. I've actually stored them in a folder. You actually also don't need the IFP files, but they're actually cool to have, because what you can do with them is import entire city scenes into Blender. So right now you can see here they are sorted in, or like every object is stored in those .ifp files. And with that you could just import any city section. For example, you have the airport right here. If I open that file, is that actually the right format? Nope. So the IPL format is better, but if you open, okay, never mind, it's also not better. But I normally just plain text structures that define the model ID and the positioning and so on. They are nice to have, but they also should be in your GTA SA folder by default. So if I go in here and then go to data and then to maps, you also find IPLs inside here. And yeah, if I open them, you can actually see the structure in here. So that's how they're usually set up. Let's move on. So just put them in their own directories, all of them. I will delete them for now because I don't need them anymore. For the TXDs, you want to do the same, obviously. That's something I won't do anyway. So just hit delete. For now, at least for me. You want to port them into any folder. Okay. So one more thing we will go over is we don't have like, or as you can see, we have more TXT files than we have, or like we have less TXT files than we have models. So if you open any TXT file, you will see that there's multiple textures inside one TXT file. In order to export them, we will use Magic TXT and just go to Tools, Mass Export, select the folder with the TXT files in it. For me, that would be on my D drive, then GTA assets, and then TXT. Select the folder and then just select any output folder. For me, that would have been TXT single, or like TXT single TGA. You can do that, and then you could save them in the TGA format. I would just go simply with the PNG. But the TGA format can be helpful because most objects, I think, have the model names defined with the TGA ending. This is not the case here, but I think if you go into the root stuff, but yeah. Just export them as PNG. Just export them as PNG and make sure to only export them with the texture name. And then you simply hit export and you're done. That's how you would get all of the TXT files. Yeah, but that covers pretty much everything. So then you can just simply import any objects you want onto your folder. Let's say, I don't know, let's import this one right here, whatever this might be. So if we actually change the viewport shading to include the textures as well, you will see that the texture hasn't been applied. In order to fix that, you can simply go to external data under file and then hit find missing files. Go into the folder you've just extracted all the texture files to. For me that would be TXT single folder, and then hit find missing files, and it will automatically find the texture that is defined on the material. So yeah, that can be pretty helpful. What you can also do is for other stuff to simply replace the textures and so on. But that covers pretty much everything. I hope it's helping you in some way. I might have fumbled a bit while showcasing everything. Yeah. Anyways, have a good evening and goodbye.